Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a brand new update, which I've talked about a little bit, but there's a lot in this update. So make sure to smash the like button, smash the sub button if you enjoy, and let's jump into it. All right, our first section of changes is with the dark auction. As you can see, there is a brand new dark auction here. The whole room is looking different. Of course, the top floor still looks the same as it always did, but the bottom floor is a lot different. And that's because there are a few new items in here, as well as some just major changes to the dark auction. There's two new items which we'll go over if they pop up. If they don't, we'll go over after. But other than that, they have made twice as many dark auction servers now, so there's a lot more dark auction servers. And while Scorpius is mayor, there will be 3 times as many dark auction servers. They also added a new round to the way that the dark auction works as well. So the way it used to be was there would be an item, then there'd be a book, then there'd be an item, and then there was the flower minion. Now there's an item, a book, another item, and then a flower minion. So basically an item round, a book round, 2 more item rounds, and then the flower minion. And they also did the same change with the Scorpius mayor, so there's an extra item round in there as well. So the way that it'll be when Scorpius is here, there will be an item, a book, an item, a book, an item, the plasma nucleus or a hegemony artifact, a flower minion, and then a Midas staff. They also doubled the chances of ender artifacts and wither artifacts showing up, increased the chances of dark purple dye by 5x, and then they added in the 2 new items, which are the magic 8-ball and the Sirius's personal phone number, and gave them the same weight that the ender artifact and wither artifact used to have. So they're somewhat rare. I have seen neither of them today, but I know people who have seen them. But this is what they do. This is the magic 8-ball, which is a brand new epic accessory. Basically every skyblock season it will grant one of the following bonuses, which is 25 farming fortune, 1 farming wisdom, 25 forging fortune, 1 forging wisdom, 25 mining fortune, 1 mining wisdom, 25 fishing speed, 1 fishing wisdom, or 25 strength and 1 combat wisdom. And then there's the Sirius personal phone number, which will basically give you Sirius's contact on your Abby phone and give you a 1% discount from all dark auction items. So it's not a bad item, but with this new contact, if you have an Abby phone 13 Pro, you will have to upgrade if you want to have all the contacts in the game on your phone at the same time. So I'm going to have to pay a pretty penny to get a better Abby phone soon, but I'm putting it off as long as I can. Now, if you go and look in your Skyblock calendar, you will notice there is a Hoppity's Hunt event. It lasts for 31 hours. So basically it's the entirety of spring, very similar to the way that the Season of Jerry works. So basically Season of Jerry is open the entirety of winter, but it's the entirety of late winter. So it's open for 8 hours, whereas Hoppity's Hunt is open the entirety of spring. So early spring, spring, and late spring. So 3 skyblock months it's open, which is 31 hours. But I've made a video on this previously. If it works the way that it does on the alpha, then you'll be able to do cookie clicker at all times after that first hunt opens. You can see this is the building that Hoppity was in on the alpha server, and you can talk to the unemployed rabbit bro, but he'll say that factory is opening soon. If you try to do /chocolate factory, it's not open yet. So we're gonna have to wait until that hunt starts, but you should be able to access the chocolate factory year round after that hunt begins. You just won't be able to access the chocolate factory shop where you buy all the talismans and things until the event begins and while the event is active. For those of you that didn't watch my video on the alpha, we'll go over the patch notes here real quick. Basically, the chocolate factory is a cookie clicker minigame, and it's officially a part of the game's progression now. While it is spring, there will be special chocolate eggs that will appear every in-game day. So every 20 minutes you'll get 3 new chocolate eggs that will spawn somewhere around the map, just like this one is here, and they'll be at the same spot for everybody. So if you find one, you say the location in chat and everybody in the lobby can come and find it. Every time you open an egg, you'll get a random rabbit that will give you perks towards your chocolate factory. So rabbits will increase the amount of chocolate that you get per second. It is basically an upgraded version of cookie clicker. Your objective is to produce as much chocolate as possible with lots of clicking and purchasing upgrades to help you increase your production per second. As your chocolate production increases, you'll be able to unlock many more items, upgrades, and eventually prestige your chocolate factory. And the way that this will work, you don't actually have to do the cookie clicker side of things if you don't want to. You can just go around and find the rabbits to do your chocolate grinding for you, and they'll do it year round. You don't even have to be online, and they'll be grinding it out. So after day 1, you can just get all your rabbits, as many as possible. You will have to upgrade your barn, which is this little thing right here, to increase the amount of rabbits you can get, but that's upgraded by chocolate, which the rabbits produce, so shouldn't be a problem. And the more chocolate you get, the more of the items you can get from the shop. So you can get this dark cocoa truffle, which is a new item that will give you global fortune. You can consume up to 5 and you get 5 global fortune, which is towards foraging, towards mining, towards farming, any fortune. It works on that, but you can only consume 5. They do give some SkyBlock XP though, so that is a bonus. While it's mostly an idle game, clicking isn't intended to be the main gameplay element, thus clicking will only offer a few upgrades and will cap at a very low tier. You might notice that gameplay in the Chocolate Factory runs out before you can achieve a prestige. We understand that some players might prefer playing the game by itself, but this is not just any idle game. It's part of SkyBlock's economy, and its ultimate goal is linked to the chocolate shop. The Chocolate Factory will open as soon as early spring of SkyBlock year 346, so that is again in 3 days. The cookies you earned from the previous iterations of the Cookie Clicker minigame will be converted into chocolate and will be waiting for you in the Chocolate Factory on its grand opening. Now we got something else to talk about. The biggest part of this update, in my opinion, is over in the Glacite caves. First off, you can see that the fire here has its own animation now, and you can't stand on it like you used to be able to. It's got like the crystals with a border around it. Unfortunately, the way that it works now, it's a little bit different than it was. But basically, you gain your cold like normal. But once you go back to the base, the cold doesn't instantly reset to 0. If you have like a decent amount, it'll take it a couple seconds. It's not that big of a difference, but basically you have to stand here. If you have 80 cold, it reduces it by like 20 or 22 per second. So you have to stand here for like 4 seconds and then you can go back in with a 0 cold if that's what you're wanting to do. But the biggest part of this update is probably the Glacite Golem pet, which I made one of these today. Unfortunately, I got an epic one, but you can see it gives more Glacite powder. You gain extra mining fortune while in the mine shafts, and the legendary version gives more pristine in mine shafts after you've gained or after you've opened corpses. So basically, if you've opened 3 corpses in a mine shaft, you get 3 extra pristine in that mine shaft. So it's pretty nice if you're grinding out the Jasper crystal rooms and things like that. But really the powder is the big deal because there are a lot of ways to gain powder now and a lot of easier ways to get Heart of the Mountain XP as well. Most of that stems from tunnels, which are changed a little bit on how you get them. Basically, it's a pity system similar to trophy fishing now. So mining mithril blocks gives you 2 points towards that system. Once you get to 2,000 points, you are guaranteed to spawn a mine shaft. But every mithril block is 2 points. Every titanium block is going to be 8 points. And basically everything else is 4 points. Gemstones, Glacite, Umber, Tungsten, all those are 4 points. So if you mine only mithril, it's going to take you 1,000 blocks. If you mined only titanium somehow, that would take you 250. And if you mine anything else, it's going to take you 500. So it's definitely a lot easier on that front until you take into account one of the big changes that they made, which is that Glacite parties are now limited to 4 people. You can only warp yourself and 3 other people into a mine shaft at a time. So it is a little bit of a pain on that front. So even though they made mine shafts easier to find, you have like half of the people to find them as you used to, so it's not really easier. It's kind of been a pain for us to find some today. We've been grinding out as much powder as possible, which today alone I did get like 2 million powder, so I can't complain too much on that front, but mine shafts are definitely harder to get. But you can see the perks of the legendary golem right here. Gain 1 pristine from every frozen corpse you looted in the current mine shaft, so it's pretty nice. They have reworked cold as well. If your cold resistance is greater than your cold, your mining speed won't be affected until your cold resistance is lower than your cold. So the more cold resistance you have, the longer it doesn't matter how cold you are. If your cold is greater than your cold resistance, your mining speed will reduce by 0.5% for every 1 cold above your cold resistance value. If you ever have more than 100 cold resistance, your mining speed will never be affected by the mining speed penalty. So if you get to 100 cold resistance, I don't know if that's possible right now, but if it is, if you can do that, then you'll never have to deal with mining speed penalties. They also made mineshaft portals stick around for 30 seconds, which is pretty nice, and they buffed portable campfires to reduce your cold by 50 instead of 15, so they're a lot more worth it now. They also made the mobs in the tunnels drop 50 Glacite powder, and you can drop up to 5 suspicious scraps per mineshaft, whereas it used to be 1. They also heavily reduced the chances of scraps containing fossils, so if you have a bunch of fossils saved up, you probably wait a couple days and you'll be able to sell those for a bit of profit. They did fix Paleontologist. Paleontologist was bugged for a bit, but now suspicious scrap rates have increased a lot thanks to that enchant. But every time you find a scrap in a mine shaft, your chances of finding the next scrap are lowered. So I don't think they've got those real rates in here, but that's how it works. Your second one is rarer to find, third one is even harder to find, fourth one's even harder. So they did make abbey phones able to be used in the Glacite tunnels, so that's pretty nice. You don't have to get a royal pigeon now, but again, royal pigeons are only 10,000 coins, and they are a lot faster to use than an abbey phone. and Abiphone still rings, and it takes a while to open. So still say royal pigeons are the way to go. They did buff Reaper peppers, so if you look on Bazaar for a Reaper pepper, they do now give 1 cold resistance. So they did add more ways to get cold resistance, so maybe getting to 100 cold resistance is possible now. They did adjust a lot of forge times as well. They said Glacite amalgamations take 1 hour to forge, but that is not true at the moment. I don't know if that's a bug or what, but you can see right now I have Glacite amalgamations that are taking 1 hour and 11 minutes. So that's definitely capped, but hopefully they'll fix that in the near future. But refined umber and refined tungsten now take a lot less time to forge, but umber plates have been extended as well as tungsten plates, so they both take 2 hours now instead of like 30 minutes I think it was before. Perfect plates take 6 hours if you don't have the mining or the forge boost. I have quick forge right now, so this is why all my times are a little different, but perfect plates take 6 hours, but jeweled handles only take 30 seconds, which is pretty awesome. But here are some pretty big changes that we definitely need to go over. Frozen corpses now give a base amount of Glacite powder and Heart of the Mountain XP when you loot them, so Lapis will always give 500 powder and 100 Heart of the Mountain XP at its base. It can give more, but at the very least, this is what it'll give. Tungsten and Umber give 5,000 powder and 1,000 Heart of the Mountain XP, and Vanguards give 5,000 Heart of the Mountain XP and 25,000 powder. So they're a bit more worth it now. The keys are a lot more worth it, I would say. Vanguard's still pretty expensive, but if you're rich and you want to throw some money at it, go for it. They also changed some of the Glacite, Umber, and Tungsten collections, so some items are a little bit easier to obtain. It's still $1 million to get the Glacite Golem pet, but you'll notice that Umber keys are unlocked at 25,000 collection now instead of 250,000, so it's a lot easier. They nerfed the Penguin pet, which is an interesting choice. I didn't think it was good at all anyways, but now its sea creature chance is 10 instead of 30. Big rip. Mole and Goblin pets now have Magic Find as a base stat. They also adjusted the drop rates of a lot of items, including the Suspicious Scrap, which is now much more common, as well as a lot of the crystals are a lot more common as well. But you can see crystals have a 10% chance, and Shattered Pendants is what they're called now, apparently. No, they just misnamed it. It's the Shattered Locket. They just accidentally called it the Shattered Pendant because it's used to make the Divine's Pendant, but its rate has been increased by a good amount. It's 0.79% now, whereas it used to be 0.354%. So they basically doubled the rates of Shattered Pendants or Shattered Lockets, so that's pretty nice. They also changed a lot of recipes, so Umber keys and Tungsten keys now don't require the refined versions. Instead of a Bejeweled Handle and a refined Umber, it now costs 192 enchanted umber and 1 bejeweled handle, so it is a little bit more than a refined umber, but it takes a lot less time to make. It's literally a 21-second craft instead of a 30-minute one, so it's a lot easier to get your hands on these if you have the materials. You don't have to wait nearly as long to make them. Same thing for tungsten. Glacite amalgamations now require half of the fine gemstones, but twice the enchanted glacite. And again, they did not nerf the timing on these. According to the patch notes, they intended to make them take an hour. They still take 3 hours at the point that I'm recording this, so hopefully they'll fix that soon. They also changed the recipes on a lot of other items, so the Dwarven Metal Talisman now requires, instead of 4 refined, or instead of 4 tungsten plates and 4 umber plates, it now requires 4 refined tungsten, 4 refined umber, and 4 glacite amalgamations, so it's a lot cheaper. The Dwarven Hand Warmers, I'm not sure what they used to cost, but they now cost a tungsten and umber plate, a flawless jade, and a flawless amber, and they don't take too long to craft. I don't know what their time was before, but it's only 3 hours now. The reinforced chisel, or it now requires 2 refined tungsten and 2 refined umber. It used to require 2 of each type of plate, I believe, or maybe 1 of each type of plate, but I remember this being a pain to get, so thankfully they've adjusted it and it's a lot easier to get your hands on. They also changed the Relic of Power, so it used to be 4 perfect plates, which honestly at this point would be easier. The price of 32 glacite amalgamations is currently 128 million coins, although the price of 4 perfect plates is 200 mils, so maybe it's a little bit better, but it's still a bit of a pain, on top of having to get all of the perfect gemstones for the new variant. They did buff the chance of spawning a mine shaft with a gemstone crystal in it from 10% to 25%, so it's a lot more common now. So hopefully the prices of perfect gemstones is going to drop by a little bit, but we'll see. They made the skeleton key only work on Vanguard corpses as a result of some unfortunate events. Apparently people were accidentally using them on tungsten and umber corpses, so they'll only work on Vanguards now. They also changed a lot of items to be unlockable at Heart of the Mountain 7 instead of Heart of the Mountain 8, which was definitely good. I remember grinding to get this. I had to grind 6 hours of commissions to get to Heart of the Mountain level 8 from Heart of the Mountain level 7, and then I could put this in the forge, at which point it took another 9 hours to get completed. So glad they've adjusted this. It'll be a lot easier for you guys. They also added some rewards to Dr. Stolen upon donating all desired fossils to her. So if you guys have donated all of the fossils to her, make sure to go give her a visit. She'll give you 60,000 Glacite powder if you've donated all of the fossils to her. But I would recommend doing this during a 2x powder because I believe it does work during 2x powder. So wait until then to claim that. They also added aquamarine gemstone slots to the auger rod and the giant rod. So a little bit of a buff to that. All of the fossils now sell to NPCs, so we can grab some that I've been saving here and sell them for different amounts each. So Helix fossils are only 10k per, but the others are 50,000 a piece. I think they'll go for a little bit more than that, hopefully, but I guess it gives Iron Man a reason to actually grab fossils. I still think Glacite powder is going to be more valuable though. They also added so that if you have reached the Glacite tunnels before, then you don't have to buy the pass to warp to the crystal nucleus. You can just warp there whenever you want to. So definitely a nice buff. They also removed starter commissions, which I was getting a lot of questions about. A lot of people have been soft locked at the start of Glacite tunnels because they couldn't get themselves to spawn a mineshaft, and so they were just stuck with all mineshaft quests. So all of their commissions could only be done in mineshafts, but they couldn't spawn a mineshaft. So thankfully they've removed these, so hopefully you won't have that issue anymore. They also increased the rewards that you get from leaving a mineshaft early. So if you leave a mineshaft early enough, like before you die basically, depending on what you've done in that mineshaft, you can get some extra rewards. The more powder you'll get based on how cold you are, how many corpses you got, how many scraps you found. There was a bug where mining fortune would apply to suspicious scraps, so that was fixed. I did have this a few times where I was in a mine shaft and I found a scrap and it gave me like 2 or 3 at the same time, so that won't happen anymore, unfortunately. Apparently there was something where the Phoenix pet would prevent you from freezing to death in the tunnels, so that won't be happening anymore. They also changed how rift transfers work, so basically if you had a vampire dentist relic, which is rift transferable with a recombobulator on it, you can't transfer that anymore because when you transfer it to the rift, it removes the recom, so that won't be happening anymore. Apparently there was a wipe this morning, so hopefully none of you guys were affected, but they will be refunding those items. You can do /RNG now as well to check your RNG meters. So we'll go in game and try this /RNG, and we can look at our Slayer meter and our Catacombs meters. So we can just check out what we have here. We have Warden Heart selected, nothing selected, capacitor, judgment core, etc. Apparently now Enderman fanatics can drop some things. So if we do bestiary fanatic, Voidlink fanatics can now drop legendary and epic Enderman. They did a whole bunch of other changes, which I'm not going to go over all of them, but the big one is highlighted here. They fixed being able to skip certain phases of Slayer bosses by dealing too much damage. So basically this should prevent any one-tap methods from happening for Blaze Slayer or for Enderman Slayer ever again, and apparently same thing for Sven. So there's no more one-tap methods that will ever be possible for Slayers. They did also buff the Fanged Reforge, which now gives more vitality and can be applied to all iron swords, or all swords. It used to be just iron swords, now it can be applied to anything. You can also buy and sell pet cakes in the bazaar, and they added true defense as a base tier effect on fervor gear. They also added mending to hollow armor and increased the health and defense of it, and removed the strength and critical defense from every single piece. They also buffed your Enderman level 9 perks, so if you're Enderman Slayer 9, you are now more likely to spawn Jobuses, Skathas, Golden Jerrys, Rain Drakes, and Diamond Goblins. So that's a pretty big buff. They also added the Pelt Belt to the museum. So if you have a Pelt Belt from the Trapper NPC, I think it's only available during Finnegan, then you can now museum that. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching to the end. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already. We're on our way to 11,000 subs now, and every single sub helps. Also, before you go, we are doing a giveaway in the Discord, so make sure to join that. There's a link in the description. We're giving away 800 million coins in a week, so make sure to join before it's over, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have an amazing rest of your day, and God bless.